My fiancée swapped my insulin to prove I was faking. She nearly killed me and went to prison. Reddit stories. I thought I'd found the perfect partner, until my blood sugar started crashing for no reason. When I discovered my insulin pens were filled with water, everything unraveled into police reports, a courtroom, and a sentence she never saw coming. Hey Reddit, Cole here, 31, and I never thought I'd be on the internet explaining how my fiancé tried to prove I wasn't diabetic by nearly sending me into a coma. But here we are. Grab a chair. This one gets dark fast. So, quick rundown, I'm type 1 diabetic. Been that way since I was 12, the age most kids worry about P-class, not whether their pancreas is staging a permanent walkout. 1 minute I was running laps, the next I was waking up in a hospital bed with a nurse explaining insulin syringes like she was giving a TED Talk titled, How Not to Die. 19 years later, I run my body like a NASA mission. Blood sugar checks 6 times a day, continuous glucose monitor, carb counting down to the gram. It's a system. It works. My A1C stays low, my endocrinologist gives me gold stars, and I still get to eat pizza, sometimes. Enter Kelsey, 28, real estate agent, Instagram influencer in her own mind. Every house she sold came with a 40-minute photo shoot featuring her holding a novelty-sized key and smiling like she just cured global famine. We were good at first. No red flags, no weird comments, nothing. She asked about my diabetes. She double-checked restaurant menus. She grabbed juice when my sugar dipped before I even noticed. I thought, wow, this woman actually gets it. My buddy Theo wasn't convinced. Theo's been my best friend since we were 15, and he has a sixth sense for people. If he ever tells you someone is bad news, you might as well start digging the emergency exit tunnel. 6 months in, he pulled me aside at my place. Dude, he said, your girlfriend hates your glucose monitor. I laughed it off. Because what else do you do when your best friend says something that ridiculous? But then he explained it. The eye rolls when I checked my sugar, the heavy sighs when I passed on dessert, the annoyed face she made when I counted carbs. You're reading too much into it, I told him. Okay, he said, but keep your eyes open. Spoiler, I should have listened. The engagement happened a year later, sunset at a lake, ring in hand, all Pinterest perfect. She said yes. She cried. She posted it instantly. Her phone got more attention during our engagement than I did. Wedding planning kicked off like a military operation. Venue booked. Photographer booked. Florist, DJ, bakery, massive guest list, everything huge and expensive. I kept saying yes because I figured that's what you do when you love someone. But month 4 engaged, something shifted. We were at dinner with her coworkers, and I pulled out my glucose monitor. Quick stick, 5 seconds done? Kelsey made a face. Right there. In front of everyone. Do you have to do that here? She asked. I froze. Yes. I need to know my numbers before I eat. Her friends exchanged looks, the kind people make when someone commits a faux pas, like wearing cargo shorts to a wedding. Then one of them laughed. Wow, he's intense. Kelsey chimed in. He's obsessed with tracking everything. Can't just eat like a normal person. Everyone laughed. Except me. That was the first crack. The second came at her sister's birthday, when she rolled her eyes at my insulin dose like I'd asked for attention. The third crack? A cookout where she told her friends I was high maintenance, because I brought my own measured food. Theo pulled me aside afterward. She didn't say that jokingly, he said. She meant it. But I was an idiot in love, so I told myself it was stress, or embarrassment, or her trying to fit in around her friends. Then came the pizza fight. And the meal prep fight. And the, "You're not even that sick" comment. And then the crack that wasn't a crack. The night I discovered someone had swapped my insulin with saline. And that's when things stopped being uncomfortable. And started being deadly. The night I discovered the swapped insulin, everything in me went cold. Not paranoid. Not dramatic. Cold, the kind of cold you feel when your body realizes something is seriously wrong before your brain catches up. It started small. For weeks, my numbers had been weird at night. Not catastrophically high or low, just wrong. I usually ran stable overnight, a gentle curve with minor dips. But suddenly I was getting erratic spikes and drops for no reason. At first, I blamed my CGM sensor. Replaced it. Numbers normalized. 2 weeks later, chaos again. I mentioned it to Kelsey one morning while she was doing her makeup. She didn't even look up. Maybe your monitor's broken. Maybe. But it was fine until recently. She sighed. Loudly. Or maybe you're just being paranoid again. I ignored it. I was used to her comments by then. The normal people don't weigh their food. Digs the you're so dramatic about diabetes. Nonsense. The way she acted like carb counting was a personal insult to her social life. But that night changed everything. I was helping Theo move a dresser when my monitor alarmed, dangerously low. I checked manually. Way too low for no reason. Juice, wait, recheck, back to normal. Theo frowned. Dude, that's weird. I know. Check your insulin. Make sure it's not expired. So I did, when I got home. Pulled a pen out of the fridge. Checked the date. Fine. Held it to the light. Clear. Normal. Tested a drop on my tongue. Insulin has a slight acidic bite. This had nothing. No taste. Like water. My heart dropped straight through the floor. Grabbed another pen. Same thing. A third. Same. All 4 pens I had refrigerated, the ones Kelsey had access to, were filled with clear liquid that wasn't insulin. Not expired. Not defective. Replaced. I sat on my kitchen floor staring at the pens, feeling my pulse thudding in my neck. A type 1 diabetic without insulin is a ticking time bomb. Someone had swapped them. Someone who lived with me. Someone who thought I was making a big deal out of diabetes. Someone who rolled her eyes every time I checked my sugar. I called Theo. Didn't even say hello. Someone replaced my insulin with water. Silence on his end. Then, Cole. You need real insulin right now. I know. Do not stay there. Get to the pharmacy. I grabbed my keys, drove fast, told the pharmacist something was wrong with my pens. They gave me new ones, flagged my file, asked if I wanted to file a report. Not yet. Not until I was certain. When I got home, Kelsey was on the couch watching reality TV, scrolling her phone like nothing in the world was amiss. I held up a pen. What is this? She barely glanced. Your insulin? No, I said, stepping closer. It's water. Someone swapped my pens. She blinked once. Too slow. Too calm. Maybe you got a bad batch. All 4? From different boxes? She crossed her arms. You think I did it? I think you're the only one with access. Her face twisted. Defensive. Offended. You're being insane. Why would I do that? Good question. But the better question, the one echoing in my skull, was, why did she look more offended than scared? Because if I told someone I'd been unintentionally dosing with saline instead of insulin, a normal partner would panic. Freak out. Ask if I was okay. Kelsey? She scoffed. Grabbed her purse. I'm not dealing with your paranoia. And walked out. She stayed at her mom's for 2 days. Came back acting normal. Pretended nothing happened. I didn't pretend. I bought a biometric safe for my insulin and kept everything locked. Theo helped me set it up. Leave her, he said. I know, I said. But I didn't. Not yet. Because I wasn't stupid, but I was still engaged, and I couldn't quite wrap my head around the idea that someone who claimed to love me might actually try to prove a point by tampering with the only thing keeping me alive. But 3 weeks later? She escalated. And not by messing with my pens this time. No. This time, she came for my dinner. The night it all blew open didn't start dramatic. No yelling. No tension. No warning signs. Just Kelsey in the kitchen, announcing she wanted to do something nice and cook dinner. This alone should have been a red flag. She didn't cook. Ever. The woman once burned toast and blamed the toaster for having an attitude. But she showed me a low-carb stir-fry recipe on her phone. Looked legit. 30 carbs, maybe? I calculated my insulin dose, 5 units. Simple. When dinner hit the table, something felt off. It smelled sweet, too sweet for a sugar-free recipe. First bite confirmed it, syrupy, sticky, wrong. My monitor buzzed within minutes. I was already climbing. Way too fast. I stopped eating. Kelsey, did you follow the recipe exactly? Yes, she said without looking up. You're overthinking again. I checked the ingredients she'd actually used. Sugar-loaded stir-fry sauce. White rice instead of cauliflower rice. Hidden behind the counter like a kid hiding contraband. The meal wasn't 30 carbs, it was pushing 200. My stomach dropped. My pulse spiked. My mouth dried instantly. Kelsey, why did you do this? She shrugged. I wanted you to see you're not as fragile as you think. You treat diabetes like it's the end of the world. My monitor buzzed again. My breathing changed. Faster, deeper, wrong. This wasn't a normal spike. This was the start of decay. I grabbed my meter. Moderate ketones. My entire body went cold. I need to go to the hospital, I said. Kelsey rolled her eyes. Cole. It's dinner. You're being dramatic. My vision blurred. My hands shook. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. I didn't argue. I called Theo. He picked up instantly. Need a ride? I gasped. DK. Now. On my way. Kelsey didn't follow. Didn't offer to help. Didn't even look guilty. She just muttered, "This is ridiculous," as I leaned against the doorframe fighting to stay upright. Theo arrived in 5 minutes, took one look at me, and said, "Holy hell. Let's go." He half carried me to the car. My sugar was 300 by the time we hit the ER. Nausea slammed me like a truck. I barely made it inside before collapsing into a wheelchair a nurse sprinted over with. Within minutes, 4 line, blood draw, insulin drip, saline, oxygen. Decay confirmed. The doctor came in an hour later, serious expression, clipboard in hand. "What happened tonight?" he asked. I told him. Everything. The recipe. The sugar. The switch. The history. When I finished, he stared at me for a long moment. "Cole," he said, "you were heading into moderate decay. Another hour, maybe 2, and we'd be talking organ damage. Possibly cardiac arrest." My chest tightened. Not from fear, from clarity. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't stress. Someone who claimed to love me tried to test whether I really needed the insulin that keeps me alive. And I almost died. Theo was waiting outside the room. When the doctor left, he came in, sat beside me, and said, "You're calling the police after this, right?" I didn't even hesitate. Yes. Because this was no longer a relationship problem. This was attempted murder. They kept me overnight in the ER, hooked to 4 insulin and fluids while my labs crawled back into the safe zone. DKA recovery feels like your body is rebooting after someone yanked the power cord. Nausea, shaking, headache, dehydration, and a bone-deep exhaustion that makes blinking feel like a chore. Theo stayed the entire night. Didn't leave once. Didn't even step out for food until a nurse forced him. By morning, my pH had stabilized, ketones cleared, and my sugar sat at a clean 115. I felt like I'd survived a house fire. The doctor came back with my discharge papers. "Before you go," he said, lowering his voice, "I want to be clear. This wasn't bad luck. If your account is accurate, you need to file a police report. Food tampering combined with a medical condition? That's absolutely criminal. I nodded. I already knew. Theo drove me to his place after discharge. I collapsed on his couch, closed my eyes, and tried to think straight. Every time I replayed Kelsey's face from the night before, bored, annoyed, scrolling her phone while I was going into literal metabolic crisis, something twisted in my chest. Around mid-afternoon, when I could stand without feeling like my bones were wet noodles, Theo poured me coffee. You ready? He asked. For what? He raised an eyebrow. To report it. Yeah. I was. We drove to the police station. I brought everything. My glucose monitor with the readings. Hospital paperwork. Doctor's notes confirming DKA. The texts where she called me dramatic. Photos of the sauce bottle and rice she substituted. A time-stamped account of everything from that night. At the front desk, the officer looked skeptical at first, until I handed over my ER paperwork. Then she called a detective immediately. Detective Carl, late 50s, gruff voice, tired eyes like he'd seen it all, escorted me to a small interview room. Walk me through it, he said. So I did. All of it. Start to finish. Every detail I'd been too shocked to fully process the night before. He scribbled notes, stopped me twice to clarify, then said something that hit like a brick. This is assault. Potentially attempted homicide. You ended up hospitalized. She tampered with food knowing your medical dependence on insulin. Hearing it out loud made it real. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I do, I said. Good, he replied. Because what she did could have killed you. When we walked out, Theo clapped a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, he said. But that night? Kelsey didn't think so. She called me 14 times. Left 5 voicemails. The first few were concerned. Then confused. Then angry. Then sobbing. Then furious again. Finally, the one that sealed everything. If you press charges, you'll regret it. My mom knows people. I saved it. Sent it to Detective Carl the next morning. His response? Thanks. This helps. 2 days later, officers showed up at her workplace. In the middle of a home showing. In front of clients. Hands cuffed behind her back. Charged with food tampering, assault, and reckless endangerment. Her brokerage practically imploded. Theo heard it within an hour. But the best part? I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. Someone who tries to prove you're not really diabetic by sabotaging your medication and sugar-loading your dinner doesn't deserve guilt. They deserve consequences. And for once, she was finally going to face some. By the time Kelsey was arrested, her mother, Cheryl, was already on a full-scale meltdown tour. I didn't even know she had my mom's number until she used it. 5 missed calls, 3 voicemails, all some flavor of, "How dare you ruin my daughter's life over a misunderstanding?" A misunderstanding. Right. Kelsey was released on bail the next day. $75,000 her mom rushed to post. The ink on her release papers wasn't even dry before Cheryl was on Facebook proclaiming her daughter innocent, me, unstable, and diabetes. Not that serious. Theo started screenshotting every post. Receipts. Always receipts. Meanwhile, Kelsey was slapped with a restraining order. No contact. No proximity. No loopholes. Didn't stop her from trying. Her mom called my brother, my workplace, even Theo's number. All of it forwarded straight to voicemail and straight to Detective Carl. Kelsey's dad, Jim, called too, but for once, it wasn't more chaos. "I'm sorry," he said. Voice quiet, tired. "I should have warned you. She gets her mother's temper. I told her what she did was unforgivable. It meant more than I expected. But the real storm came during the preliminary hearing. Kelsey showed up looking like she'd practiced her sad face in the mirror for an hour. Her lawyer pushed the Honest mistake. Angle. Wrong sauce, wrong rice, no intent. Then the prosecutor brought out my glucose data. The hospital report stating DKA. The forensic report showing my insulin pens contained saline. The syringes from her bathroom with insulin residue. Texts of her mocking my diabetes. A screenshot of her online advice telling someone to test their diabetic boyfriend by feeding him sugar. Photos of the meals she swapped. The judge didn't even blink. Case bound for trial. Afterward, Cheryl confronted my mom outside the courthouse, screaming that I'd ruined Kelsey's future. Mom told her to back off or she'd file harassment charges. Cheryl shut up for about 12 hours. Then she posted a 27-paragraph Facebook essay about vindictive men and weaponized medical conditions. Theo archived all of it. But in the middle of all this noise, something else happened. Kelsey's dad filed for separation from Cheryl. That floored me. Apparently he'd been the only reasonable one in the family, and the entire case broke him out of whatever sleepwalking state he'd been in. Meanwhile, I moved into my brother Paul's spare room and focused on getting my life back on track. Work. Routine. Stability. But every night, lying in that quiet room, all I could think was, she didn't just hurt me. She made me question my own instincts. And trial was still months away. But when it came, she was finally going to hear a jury say out loud what she'd done. And she wasn't prepared for that at all. Trial week felt like living inside a pressure cooker. Even walking into the courthouse was surreal, like stepping into an alternate reality where my private medical life was suddenly public record. Day 1, the prosecutor opened strong. Explained type 1 diabetes in plain English. Explained how exact insulin dosing works. Explained how even a single miscalculation can send someone into a spiral. Then they brought in my ER doctor. He testified that my blood pH was dangerously acidic. My ketones were climbing. My breathing pattern had shifted toward diabetic ketoacidosis. I was hours away from organ damage or cardiac arrest. That landed hard. I could see 3 jurors physically recoil when he said, cardiac arrest. But the real hit came when the prosecutor asked, in your medical opinion, if someone with type 1 diabetes were intentionally given deceptive information about carbohydrate content, could that result in a life-threatening event? Yes, he said. Absolutely. That's exactly what happened here. Day 2, they brought out the physical evidence. My insulin pens, filled with sterile saline. The syringes found in Kelsey's bathroom cabinet. The sugar-loaded sauce she used. The white rice instead of cauliflower. My CGM data showing the spike climbing like a rocket. Then they rolled out the texts, months of her mocking my care routine, calling me dramatic, insisting normal people can just eat things without fuss. The jury saw it all. It wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern. Kelsey's lawyer tried their best. The defense was basically, she didn't mean it. She made one careless cooking error. Happens to everyone. Poor judgment, not malice. Then they made the mistake of putting Kelsey on the stand. Under pressure, she cracked. Not a dramatic confession, just enough to kill her own case. She admitted she wanted to show me I was overreacting. That she thought I was too paranoid. That she didn't believe I needed to micromanage everything. At one point she literally said, I thought if he ate a normal meal, he'd realize he's not as sick as he thinks he is. The courtroom went silent. Even her lawyer pinched the bridge of his nose like he regretted his entire career. The prosecutor stood calm as ever. So you intentionally used high-carb ingredients after showing him a low-carb recipe? Kelsey froze. Her eyes darted everywhere. And then she made her fatal mistake. Yes. Gasps. Actual gasps. Trial was basically over right then. On day 3, the jury deliberated less than 5 hours. Verdict: guilty. On all major counts. Kelsey's face crumpled. Cheryl started screaming at the judge until she was escorted out by 2 bailiffs. Kelsey's dad sat in the back with his head in his hands. Theo squeezed my shoulder. "You made it," he whispered. But it didn't feel like victory yet. Sentencing was still ahead. And that part? That was where everything finally snapped into place. Sentencing day felt heavier than the trial itself. Trials deal in facts. Sentencing deals in consequences. And this was the part where the court would decide exactly how much Kelsey's test was worth in years of her life. The courtroom was packed. My family, Theo, officers, even strangers who'd followed the case. Kelsey sat at the defense table looking small, almost unrecognizable without her realtor polish. Dark circles, trembling hands, hair scraped back like she was bracing for impact. Her mother Cheryl? Already glaring at me like I'd personally invented crime. Her father Jim sat rows away, staring at the floor like he wanted to sink into it. The judge opened with a summary of the case, not for our benefit, but so the record would reflect the seriousness of what she'd done. Then came victim impact statements. I wasn't going to speak. I didn't want to. But the DA nudged me, and Theo whispered, "Do it. Say what she tried to take from you." So I stood. I told the court about growing up diabetic. How managing my condition is my full-time silent job. How one wrong meal can put me in an ambulance. How trusting the person you love with your life isn't optional, it's necessary. And how Kelsey took that trust, twisted it, weaponized it, and nearly killed me while accusing me of being dramatic. My voice didn't shake. Hers did. When I finished, Kelsey tried to speak. Her lawyer advised against it. She insisted. Big mistake. She launched into a half-apology, half-excuse speech about how she just wanted me to relax about food, and never intended harm, even though the jury had already seen her messages mocking my condition. Halfway through, the judge held up a hand. "Ms. Hartley, stop. You are not helping yourself." Cheryl tried to stand and yell something about me being manipulative. Bailiffs removed her before she got 3 words out. Then the judge delivered the sentence. 4 years in state prison. Eligible for parole in 2.5. 5 years probation after that. Permanent restraining order. Mandatory community service specifically at a diabetes education center. Kelsey broke. Cried, gasped, begged, said she didn't mean it. But the judge didn't budge. "You showed a reckless disregard for human life," he said. "You treated a life-threatening medical condition as a joke. This court will not." As they cuffed her and walked her out, she looked back at me with this expression I'll never forget, not sorrow, not fear. Resentment. As if I'd done something to her. Theo leaned close. There it is. She still doesn't get it. No, she didn't. And maybe she never would. But I wasn't done yet. Not until I reclaimed the one thing she'd stolen from me long before the insulin pens, the dinner, the ER visit. My confidence in my own instincts. And the final part of this story? That came after the sentencing, when life didn't just return to normal. It got better. In the months after sentencing, my life didn't bounce back so much as slowly uncoil from constant tension. I got my own apartment, a clean space where nothing was hidden, nothing felt dangerous, and my insulin wasn't something I had to lock behind a steel door. But the weird thing about surviving something like this, your body relaxes way slower than your mind. For a while, I double-checked every pen, every dose, every carb. Not because I didn't trust myself, but because I'd spent too long living next to someone who insisted I was dramatic, right up until the moment she nearly killed me. Theo stayed glued to my side those first few months. Weekly check-ins. Long talks. The man became my unofficial emotional support linebacker. Kelsey's mom, Cheryl, kept melting down publicly. Posting essays blaming me, blaming the justice system, blaming the diabetes industrial complex. Theo screenshot everything like he was archiving a museum exhibit titled Delusion, A Mother's Journey. Kelsey's dad, Jim, was the opposite. Quiet. Soft-spoken. Called twice just to say he was sorry again. Told me he'd moved out of Cheryl's house altogether. She can live in her denial alone, he said. Work stabilized. My health stabilized. My routine started feeling like mine again instead of a shield I had to hold up every second. Then, somewhere around the 6-month mark, something else shifted. I met someone new. Not planned. Not dramatic. Just two humans in the right place at the right time. She understood type 1 immediately. Her sister has it, and she asked all the right questions without making me feel like a patient instead of a person. For the first time in a long time, managing my diabetes didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt normal. Safe. Respected. But peace never lasts long in stories like mine. Because last week, Detective Carl left me a voicemail. His tone wasn't panicked, but it wasn't routine either. Cole, call me back when you can. There's a development in your case you need to know about. My stomach dropped the second I heard it. Because Kelsey's parole hearing was coming up. And apparently, something had changed. I called Detective Carl first thing the next morning. I didn't even bother with coffee, my nerves were already doing cardio. He picked up on the second ring. Cole, he said, voice steady but carrying that weight cops get when they're about to drop something unpleasant. Thanks for calling back. Yeah. What's going on? There was a pause, not dramatic, just careful. We've received a notice, he said. Kelsey's attorney filed a supplemental motion ahead of the parole hearing. My jaw tightened. What kind of motion? He exhaled slowly. A character mitigation packet. Letters, statements, claims. Claims, I repeated. What kind of claims? That you exaggerated your medical situation. That your reaction to the food was psychosomatic. That she didn't understand the severity because you overplayed it. I actually laughed out loud. A short, stunned bark of disbelief. You're telling me she's trying the same argument that landed her in prison? Pretty much, Carl said. She's doubling down. And she's got someone backing her. Cheryl? No. Someone else. That shut me up real fast. Who? I asked. There was another careful pause. A former coworker of hers, he said. Someone who wrote a letter claiming you weaponized your diabetes to control Kelsey's diet and lifestyle. The board takes any character reference seriously, even garbage ones. You should be aware this could complicate your testimony. My pulse spiked. So she's trying to rewrite the entire relationship. She's not just trying, he said. She's preparing to present a whole different narrative. I felt something deep in my chest go cold. Not fear, clarity. Kelsey wasn't learning anything from prison. She wasn't remorseful. She wasn't reflecting. She was strategizing. Cole, Carl said, you're still planning to attend the hearing, right? Yeah, I said. Absolutely. Good. The board needs to hear your version in your own words. And they need to see you're not intimidated. I thanked him, hung up, and just sat there on the edge of my bed staring at the wall. Because here's the thing. You can forgive someone who's sorry. You can distance yourself from someone who's unstable. You can even forget someone who hurt you. But someone who almost killed you and then tries to spin it into your fault? That person doesn't go away quietly. Theo came over that evening after I told him. He dropped 2 bags of takeout on my counter and said, Okay. What's the game plan? I don't know, I said. But I'm not letting her walk out early because she wrote a creative writing essay about how it was all in my head. Theo pointed at me with a chopstick. Then we prep. Everything. Every document, every screenshot, every doctor's note. You walk and they're ready to destroy whatever fairy tale she's cooked up. I nodded, but something else tugged at me. Who would even write a character letter for her? I asked. Theo didn't miss a beat. Someone as delusional as her or someone she manipulated. Either way, it doesn't change the facts. Still, it ate at me. Someone out there believed her story. Someone who never saw the insulin safe. Or the hospital room. or my blood pH at 7.21, or the 4 insulin drip keeping me alive. Someone had taken her side. And that meant this parole hearing wasn't going to be routine. It was going to be round 2. Except this time, I wasn't the one nearly dying. I was the one fighting back. The week before the parole hearing felt like prepping for a final exam on a subject I never wanted to study again, my own near-death experience. Theo practically moved into my apartment, spreading papers across my dining table like we were mapping a criminal conspiracy, which, technically, we were. Every text Kelsey sent. Every mocking comment. Every medical record from the night I went into DKA. Photos of the sauce bottle. The syringes with insulin residue. Screenshots of her posts, her mom's posts, the police report timeline. Theo pointed at the pile. You think the parole board's gonna fall for her BS? Not when we bring this. I'm not worried about the board, I said. I'm worried about whoever wrote that letter. That realtor friend she used to drink wine with and trauma dump on? Easy. People love supporting delusions. But I wasn't so sure. Something about that letter had stuck with me. If it was just her mom, fine. If it was a friend, fine. But someone speaking with enough confidence to submit a statement to a legal proceeding? That nagged at me. 3 days before the hearing, I got the answer. Detective Carl called again. His tone was different this time, tighter. Cole, you might want to sit down. That bad? I asked. It's not ideal. We got the full list of character letters submitted on her behalf. I grabbed a pen. Okay. Who is it? He read the names, one by one. A former coworker. A cousin. Cheryl, obviously. Then he hesitated. And one more. Who? Dr. Maddox. I stopped breathing for a second. My endocrinologist? No. No way. That's the name on the letter. There has to be a mistake. He knows I'm type 1. He's treated me for 7 years. He also wrote the letter 2 months ago. I felt my stomach drop straight through the floor. What does it say? That you demonstrate unusually rigid adherence to diabetic management, sometimes beyond clinical recommendation. That your anxiety around food could have contributed to a perceived medical crisis. My jaw locked. Perceived? That's the wording. Cole, listen, this doesn't erase your hospital records. It doesn't erase the evidence. But it will be used by her attorney to argue she misunderstood the severity. Theo was standing behind me, listening, face going from confused to furious. That letter doesn't say I wasn't diabetic, I said slowly. It says I'm strict. It walks right up to the line without crossing it. Carl agreed. Strategic phrasing. I pressed my hand to my forehead. Of all people. My own endocrinologist. He knows exactly what decay is, I said. He knows exactly what happened. Yes. But you need to understand something. Doctors get request letters all the time. Some write them without knowing the full story. Some want to stay neutral. Some think they're helping. Helping who? I snapped. Carl didn't answer. Theo stepped forward, eyes blazing. So what do we do? Carl's voice steadied. You show up. You testify. You bring your evidence. The hospital records, the lab results, the syringes, the police report. Letters don't override science. He let out a breath. But be prepared. Her lawyer is going to weaponize that letter. After the call, I stared at the table full of paperwork. I'd expected Kelsey to lie. I'd expected Cheryl to campaign. I'd expected some out-of-touch coworker to take her side. But my own doctor? That was different. Theo sat across from me, face serious. You good? He asked. I nodded slowly. Yeah. Just recalibrating. Cole, listen to me, he said, leaning forward. A doctor writing a vague letter doesn't change the fact that you were hooked up to 4 insulin in an ER with a blood pH that could have killed you. I know. No, you need to know, he said. Because this is where she's going to try to wiggle out. If they can convince the board you overreacted, she gets out early. I exhaled, long and slow. Then we don't give her that space, I said. We go in there with everything. Dates, numbers, labs, photos, everything. Theo nodded. Good. Because if she walks out early, she's not gonna disappear quietly. People like her don't do quiet. He was right. And as I sat there surrounded by evidence of the worst night of my life, one thing became painfully clear. This parole hearing wasn't going to be a formality. It was going to be a battle. And this time? There would be no misunderstandings. No doubting my instincts. No giving her the benefit of the doubt. This time, she wouldn't get to rewrite anything. The morning of the parole hearing, I woke up before my alarm. Not because I was nervous. I'd already burned through every flavor of anxiety in the days leading up to it, but because my body was strangely calm. Steady. Like it understood something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. I wasn't walking into a fight. I was walking into the truth. Theo picked me up, suited like he was heading to court himself. He tossed me a protein bar, said, "Eat. Low sugar today is not an option." Classic Theo, blunt, loyal, annoyingly correct. The parole building was smaller than the courthouse. Plain. Quiet. No theatrics. No crowd. Just a handful of chairs, 2 guards, a clock ticking too loudly, and one door that felt heavier than it should have. They brought Kelsey in a few minutes later. Orange jumpsuit. Shackles. Hair pulled back. No makeup. She still had that same expression she wore at sentencing. Not guilt, not regret. Resentment. Like the world had wronged her, and she was just waiting for everyone else to admit it. Her lawyer sat beside her with a stack of papers. No surprise, probably the Cole is dramatic folder he'd been dying to show off. The board opened the hearing. Neutral tone. Neutral questions. Neutral expressions. They weren't here for emotion. They were here for facts. Kelsey went first. She talked about growth. She talked about reflection. She talked about miscommunication and regrettable choices made under stress. She didn't talk about what she actually did. Not once. Her lawyer slid the letters across the table. Cheryl's. The cousins. The coworkers. And then, the one I'd been dreading, Dr. Maddox's. The board skimmed them politely. But when they reached the packet with my medical records, the numbers, the labs, the hospital notes stating diabetic ketoacidosis caused by intentional misinformation of carbohydrate content, they slowed down. Pens paused. Eyes narrowed. Then it was my turn. I stood. Hands steady. I told them about the swapped insulin pens. The saline. The nights of erratic blood sugar. The syringes found in her bathroom cabinet. The dinner that was supposed to be 30 carbs and ended up being 200. The spike. The ketones. The ER doctor telling me I was hours from organ damage or cardiac arrest. I told them about every eye roll, every mocking comment, every dismissal of my condition as dramatic. I told them about waking up in a hospital bed at 12 years old being told my pancreas was dead, and the only thing keeping me alive was vigilance. Then I told them this. Someone who loves you doesn't test whether your medical condition is real. Someone who loves you doesn't gamble with your blood sugar to win an argument. Someone who loves you doesn't nearly kill you to prove a point. When I sat back down, the room was silent. Even her lawyer didn't try to object. The board asked Kelsey one question. Ms. Hartley, do you dispute any of the medical evidence presented here today? She swallowed hard. Her eyes darted. Her jaw clenched. I don't remember it happening that way. One of the board members leaned forward. Calm. Stern. Medical records do. And that was it. It took them 20 minutes. When they came back, the chairwoman read the result without emotion. Parole denied. Ms. Hartley will serve the remainder of her sentence. Review eligible in 24 months. Kelsey's face crumpled in slow motion, shock, disbelief, then the same simmering anger she'd carried since the trial. Her lawyer touched her arm, but she jerked away, eyes locked on me like I was the one sentencing her all over again. I didn't look away. Because finally, I believed myself. I believed what happened. I believed my instincts. And I wasn't afraid of her anymore. Theo drove us home, radio off, windows cracked. Halfway back he said, "You did it, man." "Yeah," I said. "This time, I actually did." Later that night, sitting in my apartment with my CGM humming quietly on my arm, I realized something. Survival isn't just making it through the worst day of your life. Survival is what you build after. It's the apartment that's finally yours. It's the people who stayed. It's the routine that protects you. It's the woman you're seeing now who texts you, "How's your number?" without rolling her eyes. And it's knowing that the person who tried to take all that from you is gone, not a threat, not a shadow, not a doubt in your gut. Just a chapter that has an ending. And mine? It ends here.